Okay, and we are live for the 11th episode of Absolute AppSec, joined by, of course, co-host Seth Law
Hey, everybody. Welcome once again.
and our esteemed guest, once again, Stefan Edwards. Say hi.
Mate.
Yeah. And David Coursey.
Hello.
For those that don't know, Stefan and David, they are both consultants at Invisium. They are their background is in application security, programming language theory, Go. We've talked about this before. We've had them on before if you would like to know more about their background. But welcome, guys. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us again.
Well, we actually had to go live because we started talking about some stuff that we'll get. I think first we'll take a step back from it, and I wanted to hear a little recap of how Hack West went last week, Seth.
Yeah, we were off last week mainly because I couldn't do too many things, or I can't do all the things all the time, right? I was helping organize Hack West with Sean Jackson and a couple of the other guys that are out here in Salt Lake City. It was a good time, right? It's more of a a broader security focused conference, but we had a lot of good content. A couple of the things that were really interesting were they do the Pros versus Joes contest. If you've ever dealt with those before, it's like a kind of a live hacking exercise, right? They put together a couple, 2 or 3 teams of defenders, hand them a network and say, hey, guess what? You got to keep this up. And there's one team of pros, right? Red teamers that are trying to hack them the entire time. It's a capture the flag contest that runs for 2 days. That's a pretty interesting way to evaluate a network, to evaluate applications, and then really dig into the blue team side of things if you've never done that before, right? So that was one thing that was fairly positive. We also had voting machines. So we had the local news that actually came in and featured, a couple of the guys that were at the conference ripping apart the voting machines and taking a look at them and the flaws that existed. These were Diebold machines, specifically the ones that they use in Utah.
They weren't Facebook machines.
They were not Facebook machines. Ba-bum-bum. No, not yet. I think those are the ones they're upgrading to, right? Yeah. But those are super interesting, right? One of the things that we found, there's like an access door on the back of it where you can hook in like the phone and an extra memory module and things like that has a tubular lock on it. But the tubular lock actually doesn't have anything to hook into, right? So there's a key on it, but you can reach back behind it and just pop the whole door off of it. At which point you invalidate all the votes, right? Because it's been tampered with. There's like a tamper sticker on it, but the lock doesn't actually stop you from pulling the door off. That was kind of a fun one, but there was all sorts of things that we were doing. You could actually pop the cat card reader out of it pretty easily as well and get it to reset itself into system configuration mode. Just all sorts of, they're just so poorly designed, right? Is realistically what it comes down to. And that's not even touching the software side of things. This is all just hardware. We're looking at, physical access to device. What could you do in, 2 minutes if you had access to it and no one was paying attention to what you were doing?
Apparently a lot.
Yeah. It was a lot more than we expected. Initially, we're like, oh, well, it'll only reset to system configuration if you unscrew the whole thing. And then you're like, oh no, but you can just pinch this little thing off the edge of it and you can rip out the whole card reader and it takes all, 5 seconds to do.
Yeah.
How much money do you think they put into the software security aspect of that? And
Well, there's probably a whole validation process, right? It goes through validation certification, right?
Oh, there is. See, I've got some of the cards like I bought these off eBay, of course, right? So supervisor cards, voter access cards. There's a couple of them that came in my set that are, again, I don't know if I've got any just sitting right here. Oh yeah, and a central administrator card. I mean, you've got to program these, but basically that's all they are. Is they're signed. They've got certificates on them, right? That basically tell you what you can do once you plug them into the machine. At the voter card, all it'll do is load up the basic, hey, you're voting in this district or whatever it is. And actually, but it's all signed. The interesting thing was, though, once you got into that system configuration mode with one of the security cards, you can actually replace the certificate that's on there, right? So if you wanted to really mess with things and just blow that system away, you could do it.
And Ken, realistically, this is the United States government. Loads of money went into this.
Oh, and that's the crazy thing, right? We bought these off of some guy that got them off of an insurance company, or I don't know, something like that. But I think
company.
Yeah, exactly. But it was, what?
No, it's what a mess.
It is. That's basically what it boils down to. It's just a huge mess, right? And it's always like, well, at least we have the paper printout, right?
Yeah.
But again, the paper printout is right there in that machine. So if you can access it, there's potentially things that you could do to it, right? But I mean, that was cool. Talk wise, we had some interesting ones, like Dawn Marie Hutchinson from Optiv came in, who works like on a kind of at a higher level, like for Optiv, advising CISOs on breaches, right? Like, hey, guess what? They walk in the door after somebody's been breached and how they should be going about that. Because from a technical perspective, our initial reaction is, oh, we got to dive in and figure out what's going on. But from a legal and marketing perspective, it's like the absolute worst thing that you can do, right? The second that you start telling people numbers and everything like that, you can be held liable if you're, if you're assigning blame. I mean, that was a pretty interesting, discussion as far as what we do in case of a breach, right? The first people that should be notified are technically the lawyers, and they're going to tell you what to do because everybody else is just going to screw stuff up, is realistically what it is.
Were these talks recorded?
No, these ones weren't, right? Yeah. I mean, realistically, this year being the first year of Hack West, it came down to a cost perspective, right?
Yeah, tough. That's a lot of gear.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was like, that was, if we had another 5K or something like that, we could probably have swung it, but it was sadly the one that dropped off. But we will have all the slides posted. We'll put some links up there as soon as Sean was posting them today. So I'll throw them up we'll throw them up in the description on the different talks that were there. We had a couple people give an interesting, just kind of walkthrough of Beef and different ways that you can use the browser exploitation framework. That was cool as well. So there was it was pretty high quality content. I mean, I always did kind of the hands-on portion of things, like the pros versus Joes, like digging into different villages. Different workshops. So next year, if anybody wants to come out and do workshops, let me know. Or if you just want to come hang out, we can go. We actually have a whiskey bar, it being National Whiskey Day and all. We can go find some here in Utah. Surprisingly enough, but only in Salt Lake City, right?
So I was a red team member on one of those pros versus Joes things.
Oh yeah.
For 3 years, and it was really cool. This one was a little bit different. So it was like the CCDCs, except it was local to Charleston.
Okay.
Called PCDC. But theirs was a little bit different because they had the high school and college kids, but day 3 was pros. And so we were so close to we worked closely with the military base there. So we had a lot of the larger cyber agencies come to compete. They do not like it.
They do not like it?
They do not like it when they don't do well. So as the red team member, I was having a blast, but some of them got extremely upset.
That's not surprising, right? They're supposed to be top of their field and all of that, and they're looked at as the defensive gurus that I mean, that's just it. It just shows how hard defense actually is.
Yeah.
Somebody with enough time and expertise, it's all over, right? I mean, they did their typical kind of, hacker puzzles or CTF as well. But the pros versus Joes ones are definitely a fun way to go.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, other questions about HackWest, Ken? But outside of the fact you didn't come out for it, so
Yeah, flying. I'm doing enough of that anyways. In the coming months.
yes.
We're not in an asylum, so I would assume there's going to be one next year.
Yes. I don't know. Give me another 2 weeks to
to recover,
and then we'll start talking about it. Yeah, you definitely have that. Hey, sweet, we pulled it off. I don't want to see anybody else on the committee for at least a couple of weeks, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure Justin's going to hear this, so maybe Justin and but Chris, but maybe, right? But it's always fun. It's always kind of cool to give back to the community and all that, but it's a lot of work, right? Everybody doesn't realize the amount of time that goes into making sure everything comes off and running a successful, even just like a call for proposals, CFPs, and then all the volunteers and speakers and organization and venue, and the list just goes on, right?
Sounds like a lot of work.
Yeah, it's fine, right? It's over right now, so I can sleep at night again. So.
Yeah, I've heard the worst is when you get down and you're a few weeks from doing a conference, and because what I've heard is that within 4 weeks of a conference is when the majority of your remaining sales typically happen.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
So that it's up until 4 weeks before a conference, you're basically just holy shit, is this going to work? You don't know.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you're totally in the red, right? I mean, attendees, you're like, wow, I don't know if we're going to meet our attendee minimums that we wanted to do. So you're holding off on purchases. And I mean, we don't need to go into all the specifics, but yeah, you're right. Most people have a tendency to book within a month, right? 4 weeks before, and you see this spike in registrations. You're like, oh, I guess maybe we'll actually make it, right?
But let's keep talking about how hard it is and see if we can make Seth get drunk.
Come on, slow down. Now I got Justin texting me now, giving me crap, so that's all good. So
we're gonna trigger you. Usually it's somebody's texting you right now, trolling us. I guess it's gonna be Justin tonight.
Oh, Kevin says he's coming out for next year. Sweet.
Ken, that's my game with you whenever you are on meetings, to try to get you to laugh or say something inappropriate during a meeting. So,
and given my maturity level, it wasn't hard to win that battle.
Nope.
We were successful.
Hey, it's after hours, so
Well, now
the whiskey now. So.
Yeah, here's a little dirty secret for everyone out there. When you've got consultants on a meeting, and it's a long meeting, and you're doing many of those meetings, there's probably some shenanigans going on behind the scenes while you're on the meeting. So there's a dirty little secret for everybody out there if you didn't know.
If everybody that's watching isn't a consultant and doesn't already know.
Yeah, exactly.
Isn't planning shenanigans right now, or texting one of us.
This is where we live. So
yeah, so I mean HackWest was good, right? It was successful, and I'm sure Locomoco Sec is going to be awesome too. Sad that I'm not making it out to that one, but
yeah, I should mention. So yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. So Justin Collins, I'm going to try and we don't know the time right now for next Tuesday, is because Hawaii, I think, is 6 hours behind on Eastern Standard Time. It's going to be weird. It's going to be weird for timing it. Plus, I'm going there with GitHub Security, the other folks on the team, to do a company summit, team summit rather. So I'll be working. I don't know if it's going to be at night or in the day on Tuesday. Or get together with the team. So we have no idea basically what I'm saying is, between the conference and team activities, and I have no idea what time we're gonna do it. So we will find that out as we get closer to it. But I'll be live with Justin in Hawaii. Seth will be joining us remotely. Sorry, Seth. You know,
Come
sure
on,
he's-
you can fund my trip out to Hawaii last minute, right?
I'm sure Salt Lake in April is the same as Hawaii in April. You know, I'm sure that's totally the same.
Yeah, I had snow yesterday, so let's just. Now you're gonna make me drink again.
Yep, this is the goal. Make Seth drink.
Come on, Seth.
Send it over. Come on.
Peer pressure. Peer pressure. So I don't know. We're Justin's awesome. He's the creator of Brakeman, and I'm wearing actually one of his shirts, not on purpose. I have like 4 shirts I rotate through. So Brakeman Pro. So yeah, he's really heavy on the dynamic analysis. He built a framework for that for Rails. So we're gonna pick his brain. And he worked at Twitter and all kinds of good stuff. So yeah, should be good. I'm excited, and it's in Hawaii. Sorry, Seth.
Come on, stop already.
You know,
no,
you
I'll
want
be
to drink
drinking next week during the see how good a commentator I am when I'm
because you're gonna be in Spain soon, right?
Yeah, I am. I'm going to Overdrive Conference again. It's actually in Girona, just north of Barcelona. That's in April as well. So, we'll have some timings that'll be switched up. At that one, I'm giving like an application security workshop, right? So, should be. It'll be fun. Like, can't complain too much.
Well, are you guys Stefan, David? You guys traveling at all?
For clients or for for cons?
Come on, where people can see you and talk to you.
No, I refuse. I mean, my conference targets this year are HackLoo, which is in Luxembourg. I'd like to see if I can hit Balkan Computer Congress, which is in Novi Sad in Serbia. I'd like to try Troopers, which I know, Seth, you usually try to hit Troopers.
Yeah, I want to hit that one too. That's on my list.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Maybe we can get JP to go. It would be pretty interesting. HackLoo is pretty interesting too. The Circle folks run it, or they're heavily involved in it. So it's interesting to go meet up with those folks. Do a little bit more of a European experience. I'm going to try to submit to Tide, which is a type theory conference, and probably do GERCON for one like normal InfoSec, like plain vanilla conference in the US. So
Hey,
I don't know. I travel for work. Why do I want to like go talk at 100 other conferences as well?
Fun. Yeah, I'm trying to get out there too. Last year was my first year in a long time where I got nothing but rejections.
yeah. Now you need to drink.
I would have thought that's normal for you.
So I've got a few. Like I completely redid. I'm working on a couple new talks on some things that I'm kind of learning myself. Like I'm learning Kubernetes security and automation. So I'd kind of like to do a talk on that, and maybe a DevOps style conference. That I've been working on Frida quite a bit, which is a mobile hacking tool, for lack of a better word.
I feel like Kevin Cody mentioned that, right?
Yeah.
No, Frida's awesome, right? Did you see that framework that, what was the name of it? I know Kevin's listening. That actually gives you like a mobile or like a UI interface into Frida.
Yeah, it's like an IDB style interface, but atop Frida now.
Yep.
I have it on my other laptop. I could open it and look. There's a conference that I wanted to submit to this year, but after so many rejections, I kind of got discouraged. So I'm going to hit it for next year. But it's DevConf, but it's in South Africa.
Nice.
So I'm going to try and hit that. I think that would be an amazing trip.
So come on, guys. The conferences that you're listing are all like, Eastern European, South Africa. I'm pretty sure our listeners don't extend to that reach quite yet, right?
I go to B-Sides Augusta and B-Sides Charleston every year. I'm in a different area now, so I'm going to try and hit B-Sides Asheville. The Southeast has a bunch of good B-Sides. I went to GERCON last year, and that was good, so I'll probably try and go again. I go to Derby every year. That's fun.
Yeah, see, I mean, Derby's one that I've actually never been to, right? It's always been on my list, but now it's getting to this, the stature of crap. Am I actually going to be able to get tickets in time?
Yeah. I mean,
or I'm going to have to submit to speak.
Last year it was nuts. The only reason I got a ticket was because I begged on Twitter for weeks.
Yeah.
And I imagine it'll be the same. Now they're moving to a bigger venue this year, so it probably will be easier to beg on Twitter for a ticket. But I imagine the script people will still snatch them up immediately.
I got super drunk and gave a talk at DerbyCon.
Yeah.
How's that different from any of your other talks?
Yeah. Let's explore this a little bit.
How's it different?
No high energy colliders nearby.
Yeah, that was a year ago. That was fun. No, yeah, I don't normally drink actually when doing when speaking, believe it or not, but because like it's go figure, it's hard. Well, lesson learned after that one, and then also it's hard to be functional for me, even normally, let alone with alcohol. So it was yeah, I don't know. I got nervous, and so I drank a bunch of alcohol, and yeah, I was pretty wasted for that talk. So that was fun. No regrets.
No regrets. I was going to say that sounds like we're getting more and more of those in Hacker Tracker. Sounds like DerbyCon's going to be on the list in Hacker Tracker this year for a mobile app. So,
very
which
nice.
is good. I mean, we've used it on 4 or 5 different conferences at this point outside of DEF CON. So
I saw that on Twitter, actually. Somebody asked you to, right? Like, and you said, yeah. Just hit sorry, my cat's going bananas again. Yeah, you oh my God. Anyways, I don't know what I was saying. Yeah, someone asked you to.
What's it like to port it to a new conference?
That's why I was about to ask. What is
it's too painful right now because I have to actually go in and manually update the iOS version. The Android version, well, she still has to manually update it. Whitney does, and we're doing a redesign for DEF CON this year, and that's going to be one of the things that we add is the ability to update the schedule remotely from pulling the schedule directly out of GitHub, basically. So it should be easier. Right now, I have to go in and update the dates and where it's pointed to. It doesn't take too long, but it is kind of a painful process.
You know what you should do? You can have this idea for free. You can so that there's an API so that conference owners can get a login from you and update the schedule themselves.
Yeah.
And then when I open Hacker Tracker, I just select the conference that I want to look at.
Yeah. No, that's the idea is that, we're going to abstract it. So we've got a list of conferences. And that's the other thing that DEF CON's been asking me to do is develop a front end, event manager where the different villages can log in and upload their events to us rather than us having to go track them down from them. So it's it's all in play. It's just, how much time do I actually have to do development versus my day job, right? Whereas, playing with Hacker Tracker and iOS development is fun, but yeah, it doesn't necessarily pay the bills yet. Come on, who wants to sponsor here, right?
I'll sponsor you.
Yeah, there you go. Just with a bottle of whiskey, that'll work. So,
Good cheap date, Seth.
Yeah, I know I am, right? It's the problem. So, besides Orlando is in Hacker Tracker. Yep, that's the next one. Okay, that's the one I've got to update for right now, Kevin, on the iOS side. Cool. But if anybody has other conferences that they want supported in there, Layer 1's going to be in there as well. Let me know because we can definitely support it, and we've got it down kind of to a science on how to actually add these conferences to the app, even if you want to take a look at and see what's actually being talked about if you're not going.
Joe Rosner has talked to me about Layer 1. I've never been to Layer 1, but I know that there's quite a few folks who actually end up out there. It sounds like an interesting conference.
Yeah, I was actually looking at some of the training there this year too. Layer 1 never really hit my radar because the West Coast takes it to a price level that, it's a different stage. So, but I saw some training there that looked pretty awesome that I was looking at.
Yeah, I've got it. I'm pulling it up right now. Yeah, there's some interesting ones that they're doing.
I'm right next to Carolina Con now too, and I've always heard good things about them. I have a lot of friends that go there, so I'll definitely hit that this year. And Circle City Con, I've always heard good things about.
Tell me there's some good barbecue at Carolina Con.
And guns.
Yes.
Both. Perfect.
Which brings us to our next topic.
I wasn't going to sex trafficking and guns, but I was just saying that a con is known for barbecue and guns. But
no, it's a good segue into guns and sex trafficking, which is one of our major topics for this evening. No, so because when we joined, we said we've been talking about this before we actually started the live broadcast. I guess to recap, SESTA, FOSTA they've passed, correct? Correct me if I'm wrong. They've passed, and it's essentially a way to prevent. Now, Stefan, because if you read just what I'm looking at, it says it's all pointed towards sex trafficking. But the interesting thing was, like, what we were talking about is that Reddit, not only did they ban portions of the site that we're talking about, like male and female escorts and basically sexual services, they talked about firearms as well, which I was like, well, how are those two related? And I don't see it in FOSTA or SESTA yet. Like in the actual breakdown, I don't see anything about firearms yet. So I'm a little confused and just catching up, but that's where we left off.
Yeah, I think it's the trafficking aspect, right? Because Reddit, Microsoft has talked about this with Skype and other services, that they're going to start filtering or flagging on. Coursey, I love your resting face there the entire time. For some reason, it focuses on you, and you just have a great RBF going there. But but Microsoft said they're going to start filtering for a lot of things, and it raises quite a number of questions as to how they're filtering things live in Skype, how they're filtering things on Microsoft Drive and those sorts of services and things like that. So it's interesting to see how something as simple as we want to make sure that people who are being sex trafficked, can no longer be openly advertised on the internet, how this can have like wider impacts to the way that, websites such as Reddit or services such as Skype actually operate. So,
yeah, I mean, the privacy implications there are huge.
Yeah.
Right? Where do you point people, right? I mean, obviously you've got like the Signal and the other apps, right? But from a privacy perspective, if you don't want Microsoft to know what you're talking about, you've got to implement yet another layer or push people towards one of those other services.
So I see that it's been passed by both House and Senate, but I don't see that it's been signed yet. Now, I have no reason to believe that it won't be. So
yeah, I mean, I'm seeing the same thing because that was my same question. Like, where is it at? But yeah, it says Senate, and so
that's not the hill that this administration is going to choose to die on by vetoing.
Yeah.
It's
you never know, right? But we don't want to get too political. So
it's a feel good legislation because it makes people say that they're helping.
Yeah.
Now, politics aside, I don't think that any administration of any persuasion understands the technological aspects of what they're talking about. They probably have a couple of advisors that know a little bit. But historically speaking, all legislation coming out of the United States government is either 20 years behind or just absolutely wrong. And I don't see any evidence to make me believe anything else on this one. Lots of unintended consequences and lots of upset people and probably very little positive impact.
I'm trying to see if Reddit has like done anything to like publicly respond, because there's some bashing of Reddit right now. Basically, calling them sellouts, bowing to the man, essentially. I'm trying to see if Reddit has a response for that, because I'm not trying to bash them. That's what people are saying. That's not my opinion by any means. I don't know enough to have an opinion on that, but yeah, I'm just seeing if I can find out before this is over if they have a response to all that. Yeah. They seem to be the first major site. The reason I say that is they seem to be the first major site that's like seemingly responding to this potential change, and then like preemptively. But
and I would imagine that you'll see the other social media sites jump on it as well, right? I mean, Facebook's already got egg on their face from the whole, accidental leak of data, right? Hey, we gave too much data to a partner.
That partner was Palantir or Cambridge Analytica, because both of them have.
Yeah, I know both have had it. Cambridge Analytica is the one that's in the news, right? That's the one that my father-in-law is asking me about, right?
Well, but Cambridge just pointed Palantir. Actually, they actually just said that Palantir has been helping. Like, they're very admiring of Palantir's technology, and they've both been working in the same space. And now Black Cube has been pulled in and everything too. So it's interesting to watch. But that's another topic.
It's not a nefarious name, Black Cube.
It's a Israeli British. It's basically Stratfor, but ex-Israeli intelligence instead of ex-US intelligence. So
it makes sense. Black Cube, yeah, yeah. No, sorry, I didn't mean to hijack there, but I would imagine like Reddit's response will be followed by multiple others as far as what they're doing to censor and to watch for that. But to your point, Dave, the legislature has always been behind, and I don't realistically see a good way of keeping them up to date on things, because they present themselves as the experts. I mean, hell, you've got Rudy Giuliani saying that he knows cybersecurity and advising the president, right? How do we do better than that, realistically?
Just don't say his name 2 more times, because he'll appear.
As a New Yorker, I'm done with him.
So I did a quick search, and so there's the Reddit site. Craigslist shut down personal ads.
Yeah, I just posted Craigslist response.
City Vibe and Erotica Review. So there's a whole host of sites shutting down after this.
I just want to say Erotica Review could be used for many services, and there was definite directions there that it could be. I mean, honestly, it's hard. A lot of these things are going to impact people who are doing it like gray market sex work, right? That were not trafficked, and they're putting them at higher risk in order to catch some negligible amount of actually trafficked people, right?
Sure. I mean, it's just gonna push people who want to do it to use more encryption.
Yeah. And with less legal recourse.
Use Tor, use Signal.
Your boy Serg.
There we go. That'll be the tagline for this episode. Use Tor, use Signal.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
I just saw another thing slightly related from the Backpage personals, where this guy was trying to get help because he solicited a woman on Backpage, and she demanded payment in Bitcoin up front. And so he made the transfer and went to the address, and oh my God, she wasn't there. So he's trying to see if he can somehow get his money, but get his Bitcoin back. Got bad news.
If only there was some way to escrow these sorts of services. If we could just give money in some format that we could hold in another location and wait until said services are rendered. It would, I don't know.
That's crazy talk.
God, it's almost as if fiat currency has worked really well for a very long time. Oh God, what a mess we are.
Yeah, well, it is. It's just a huge mess, right? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know how running one of those sites, and how does this like filter down from there too? You know, I mean, these little sites, any comment board that has to now make sure that it's not violating FOSTA, like what does that actually do?
Yeah. And
Well-
how do they monitor and enforce it?
Yeah, because they're now liable, right? That's the whole
Yeah.
idea. They're liable, and they can be pulled into court.
Well, and they removed the safe harbor provisions from previous bills, if I recall correctly.
It'll probably shake out as all after the fact enforcement. So if you get caught talking about shooting up a school on Facebook, then Facebook, if you go ahead and do it, then Facebook can be liable for that. Same thing with sex trafficking, arms trafficking. That's the way I would see it happening, because they're not going to monitor all these sites. They just can't.
Yeah, I mean they can't, but that's just it. They're putting the onus on Facebook to monitor, right, and to censor.
Well,
Yeah,
it's retroactively applied though.
really, how far back, right? It like I mean I haven't read up on it, so how far back does it actually apply?
Constitutionally, they can't. Prior to being signed into a law by Trump, they can't punish anybody from that time before.
Ex post facto.
Ex post facto, is that what it is?
Yeah.
I don't know the crazy foreign language, but I know
I
not
speak American.
not illegal until Trump signs it. So get out there and do all your arms trafficking tonight.
Well,
That's the message that David Coursey would like to put out to everybody.
Lord of War.
Time's
Corey,
ticking.
you signal go to your arms
now.
trafficking tonight. Yeah.
Well, I think the retroactive portion is that if I was going to sell, shady Russian firearms to David, but the sale won't be completed until after it's signed, they can go back and be like, haha, we actually caught you because you participated in this during the entire process of this law being signed and things like that. I don't think they're going to comb over years worth of data to find who has been selling shady Russian firearms. I think it's more along the lines of, this gray area where it hasn't been signed, but it's going to be signed and everyone knows it,
Sure.
because the government is great at like filtering down and totally applying things evenly to, everyone, right? This totally won't be misapplied to the poor or, to minorities or anything like that, right? So,
well, I mean, it's remember, it's not targeted at individuals, it's targeted at the businesses. So
right.
If the people on those platforms are doing something that is now illegal, then the business gets the liability.
I'm just trying to think about how you would actually monitor for that from like at the scale of a Facebook or the scale of even like Uber or something along those lines, right? I mean,
with Facebook, it's easy because they're already collecting every piece of data.
Yeah.
it's just one new query that they run.
Hey, maybe Russia could just outsource some of that work, or we could outsource some of that work.
Yeah.
Already got the data.
They're probably trafficking too.
Send it to Cambridge Analytica. I hear those guys are good at it.
Sure. They got the contract.
SCL Group.
Yep.
I think a lot of it's going to be machine learning and things like this. And I think the real issue here is that it's going to be like, remember when people would like sell something, but then they'd be like, oh, it's just a donation. Like that guy who was selling marijuana in DC, right? He had this giant like food truck and you made a donation at one end of the truck and then you picked up your free weed at the other end, and the two were totally unrelated, right? I think there's going to be a lot of that sort of stuff. It was like, or it's going to be all code words and driven underground.
If only there was a virtual currency that they could have exchanged.
You know what this means? Like we should just open up an escrow service that we have no idea. It just has smart contracts on either side. And, you could be selling drugs or small children and we just wouldn't know. And we can't prove that you were doing any of those bad things. We're just making, I love how everyone goes silent.
Here's your startup idea.
Stefan's good at making like awkward silence. That's kind of his, man, it's too bad LinkedIn took away those custom skill sets. That would be yours.
Here's your startup idea, Stefan. A communications escrow service, so that the two parties don't know who each other are. You provide the escrow, and it's on the blockchain. Dude, you got VC. I could get you VC tonight.
That's actually how Ken and I met. It was really awkward.
It was very awkward.
He was not exactly what I was expecting, but we went shooting, so it was fine.
I'm not seeing any response, by the way, from any of the. I mean, like maybe my Google foo is off, but I'm not seeing anything from Reddit or Craigslist. And I'm not not trying to pick on any of these websites. It's just happen to be the first ones that seem to be dealing with it. So preemptively,
under new management or something like that.
Come again?
Wasn't Reddit under new management or something?
Condé Nast bought them a couple of years ago.
Yeah, so
but
I think they're done from the days of being the plucky young internet rebels.
Yeah.
Hey Ken, I actually posted the Craigslist response in our chat, not in.
Oh, okay. Let me. Yeah, thank you.
Ken's falling down on hosting duties. Gosh, Ken.
I know.
The interesting thing is that Craigslist actually shut down their personal section. So it's not like they just shut down like casual or like, some whatever, like obviously there are various services that they have there. They shut down all personals so that there can be no mistaking that someone was requesting sexual services from them.
Yeah. I mean, given their business approach, it's not all that surprising, realistically, right? But again, they're not the scrappy internet, provider that they seem to be from their like interface. It's a full-on business now, and that's what they're trying to protect. So.
I'm not trying to be rude, but what else is Craigslist for except for like shitty furniture and like and shady services, right? I mean,
hey, they want to protect their revenue stream, like it does.
I just remember when I lived in Portland, I used to, in my commute to work, I used to listen to the Adam Carolla morning show, and he had a daily bit where he would call people on Craigslist to just buy these weird things, and it would be anything. It would be like 3 clothes hangers. He would just talk to me, be like, "So what? Why are you selling 3 clothes hangers?"
Just to see if he can. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean the statement though there, Stefan, is just like, we don't want to lose our site. So from Craigslist, we don't want to lose. We don't want to. And you like, how much of that is like actually valid concern, and how much of that is just saying like, see what the government fucking did again? They see how much they're ruining again. I don't know. Like,
so I mean, are they trying to force the issue that somebody actually sues to, make changes? Or
yeah, basically say any tool or service can be misused. We can't take such risk without jeopardizing all our other services. So we are regretfully taking Craigslist personals offline.
Stefan, do you have to pay money to put up a Craigslist personal?
I have no idea.
Why are you asking?
Ken knows.
I do all of my weird furry posting elsewhere, David. There's other sites for that sort of stuff. God.
I'm just wondering, because if it was a significant part of their revenue, I'm sure they would put up a lot more fight, right?
Yeah.
What is their revenue? Like, it's only in certain markets that you actually pay for Craigslist postings, right?
No idea.
Like, I think it's New York City. You pay for it, and like northern New Jersey, you pay for. I obviously am only familiar with posting in my area, but
maybe it's a quantity thing. Like, so if you're a car dealer and you post all your car ads on there, then you have to get a corporate account or something. I don't know.
There's a terrible joke to be made there about trafficking in volume, but I mean, seriously, it is weird. It's a strange direction to see things turn, especially when they remove safe harbor provisions. It's basically making it unsafe for those people who are trying to work in those areas and just driving stuff underground.
I mean, that's just it. They're going to get recommendations to move to Signal, to move to other services, to move to Tor, and
sure.
Yeah, that that'll be it, right? Yeah.
Sure,
Yeah,
yeah.
it goes back to what Stefan said about it being, or Stefan or David, I can't remember which one of you said it, but I think it was Stefan who said, it being these bills being like 20 years to, I mean, not literally, but them being behind the times essentially.
That
Yeah.
was Coursey. I know we both have shitty beards, but
It's all about the series of tubes.
Yeah.
But
It's
I mean,
unfortunate.
it's really just going to drive it to. I mean, it's good on the one hand because it's like another cypherpunk sort of area where we'll probably see lots of services developing, and it'll be a new and exciting area to have CJ DNS and all these sorts of anonymizing technologies coming up again. It'll be really interesting to see. Unfortunately, it's done under something such as sex work, and it's done under guns, and it's done under things that are like, it's not done for people's general privacy. It's done for making sure that people can make money under the table because that's their livelihood.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate. So
Yeah, and I'm reading it. I can't even say this name without laughing. God, I wish I was more mature. I'm reading this link from Cuddle Comfort, a site for cuddles. That's the most straight-faced way I can say it.
I mean, it's unfortunately that's the thing. People sell cuddles, and they sell all sorts of weird, kinky shit, and it's a market, and unfortunately, you're just driving a market that people are willing to pay for underground. So
That's what I requested my annual bonus be paid in.
Do you know how hard it is to get Coursey enough Cuddle Comfort cards for that to work? It was so difficult. As his manager, it took me a really long time to get that going.
Oh, I know what I'm getting you for Christmas.
I can't wait till you open them for Mrs. Coursey.
I mean, oh man.
So
all jokes aside, it's like, I mean,
so I was looking at
way more. Sorry, go ahead.
I was looking at Twitter yesterday, and Alex Stamos, the CSO of Facebook, questionably, who, respect him for the position he's in. I don't have a problem with him personally or anything like that. I know he's a controversial figure on Twitter, but he said something about how people are starting to revolt against big tech. And in the similar vein of this type of thing with what FOSTA will do to privacy on the internet, people are not revolting against the technology or the big technology companies. They welcome this stuff into their lives and into their homes with open arms because of the conveniences that they provide. They revolt and they hate the jerks that will do anything and steal anything and screw over their own users to get 5 cents more on their share price. And where this dovetails with the FOSTA thing is both of these together are hopefully going to drive a more private internet for all of us in the next 10 years, just through the fact that we absolutely need it, because everything in our houses, everything that has power running to it now has some form of monitoring on our daily activities.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny you're saying that, because at the same time that I don't disagree, and at the same time it's ironic, like you're saying, that while we're advocating for this and that, we're we can talk to Alexa, and it's okay to have Google, Google's little toys inside your house listening to your conversations, controlling your security cameras. And I mean, how many security, speaking of, how many security, different security, home security technologies have we seen that have been super insecure? Same goes with baby monitoring. Same goes with pretty much anything to make your life more convenient. We're willing to accept that openly. And, most people are completely unaware of the security risk. And then, but there's a concern there. Like maybe it's a thing of when it's known, like when it's, oh God, this reminds me of the, now I got to find the link for when John Oliver, who did the Edward Snowden interview.
Yeah, went to
Yeah.
Moscow.
And he interviewed people on the street about their privacy. Oh, I got to find this interview.
I haven't seen
Basically,
that one.
ooh, okay. Basically, the only thing people basically didn't care about most things that, he was like, if I remember correctly, it was like, oh, does this worry you when it came to technology and privacy? Does this worry you? Well, what if someone got the one thing everybody was upset about was if someone could get a naked picture of them. That struck a chord with everyone. But everything else, like, just was like, oh, whatever. I don't understand technology. Oh, it's probably doesn't affect me. It's probably not a big deal. And really, that's when people started to care, is when, there was potentially a naked picture of them that could be taken off their computer or their mobile device. So total apathy until something like that came into the picture.
Well,
more funny though. I mean, it is sad, but it's funny and it hits home on a good point.
It's one of those things that it's always hard to relay to people what privacy actually costs them. I used to have this conversation when I worked at Wicker, because people would be like, well, why do you work at this like startup that has all these claims of being military grade encryption? Like, I don't need that. I don't really care about that sort of thing. I don't need this level of privacy or security. And people don't care about it or don't think about it until you put it in terms of like, well, can I stand outside your window and watch everything you do? It's like, no, that would be really creepy and strange. And it's like, well, you're inviting this technology into your house that literally does the equivalent of that all the time. But now it's also being processed and used for other things, whatever that may be. You don't even have control over those sorts of things because you don't even know what you're opting into. You're opting into full collection, and then they decide. But there's no consent from the user beyond yes or no, and it's not granular enough for them to actually consent to anything. So
yeah,
it's a mess.
And I did want to. Hey, Seth, do you know Evelyn?
No, I was just Googling that project that they were talking about, that Sovereign on GitHub.
Yeah, so it's
an identity project.
It's interesting.
Yeah, and I'm not sure how it's going to solve that. I mean, maybe that's one thing that we could, if they're up for coming on and talking about it, it'd be interesting to talk about how they are using. I mean, it's got blockchain in there, so it must be good, right?
They've got a Slack community going. I believe it was Evelyn Evergreen who posted that link.
Self-sovereign identity. Global utility for self-sovereign. I mean, that's just it, right? Most of this information we don't necessarily have control over. We don't have the ability to control it. So, I mean, it could be interesting to talk through what their approach is as opposed to everything else that's out there. I mean, how many people use Facebook for identity nowadays, right? And how easy is it to actually go spoof one of those accounts? Super hard, right? How many times do you see somebody that sends you a Facebook message saying, hey, don't trust this other person that's friending all my friends, even though it's not me or whatever it is, right? I mean, I'm pretty sure it's Stefan with his bot network, but it could be somebody else.
Me, never.
Never?
I'm an angel.
Look at the link I just dropped in the Slack channel. I saw that on Twitter the other day. When you see the infrastructure behind the ad networks and the monitoring with the social media networks, it's disgusting. Like, I didn't used to be one of the weird privacy guys where everything I was like, hey, my privacy. But you see this stuff, and the more comes out, and it's just like, how can you not?
Yeah.
What's wrong with being a weird privacy guy, Coursey?
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
I mean, that was my constant struggle when I worked in government, right? Was that like we constantly have all of these things that we can implement in terms of monitoring employees or monitoring, transactions that are flowing through the network. But it's also like we obviously want people to not feel like they're working in or all of their money is flowing through or whatever, a panopticon, right? Like it's a rough balance.
I don't know what that word means, but that sounds right.
A panopticon?
Panopticon.
Is that the Transformer, the Autobots leader?
Yeah, totally. You should read some Foucault. I think you'd love it.
What'd you call me?
I called you a Foucault.
Come at me, bro. Panopticon. I'm reading about what that is now. Like everything that you say and write, I Google it. So this is interesting.
Yeah, it was a concept for a perfect prison, right? Where prisoners never had the actual illusion of having privacy, and then Foucault takes that successively through discipline and punishment, I think, to greater heights of like what society would look like, what work functions would look like under these sorts of conditions. So
you know what? I take that back. The name I have heard about this before. So is it like a design where someone's in the middle and like, yeah, okay, they have a 360. Yeah, I've heard, but I didn't hear about the philosophical twist on it.
That's one of the options on Cuddle Comforts.
Oh.
I mean, you know what? The problem is that this is funny to us, but this is a service that's solving real issues for people, right?
Sure.
Like,
yeah, I mean, we can joke, but there are real people who their lives are going to be hurt by this.
Yeah.
I mean, the way I was raised, like, if you smoke weed, if you're a sex worker, I don't care. It doesn't affect me, right? Like I just wasn't raised as a Puritan where I need to get all up in arms and ruin other people's lives that are 2,500 miles away because they want to make $50 an hour. Like,
and also, I don't think we should be actively putting in laws to actually harm these sorts of folks, right? Like,
sure. I mean, sex work in most of the country is illegal, and we have laws to do something about that. And I think that the FOSTA and SESTA are disproportionately going to hurt the people that they're advertising that they're helping.
Yeah. Well, what's the saying? With freedom you can't have freedom and safety. You can have one or the other.
Yeah. You can instead of safety, we should be looking at harm reduction, right? And there's no safety. There's no such thing as safety, but you can reduce harm, right? But they're never going to have a completely safe sex working operation, but you can totally have or reduce the harm therein. And we're not doing that with this sort of bill. So.
Yeah. Well, maybe we can rely on President Trump to
veto it. Something tells me that's not going to happen. So, like, I do have a pretty hard stop tonight, guys. But before I drop off, I mean, you guys are more than welcome to keep chatting with Ken. But before I drop off, I just wanted to, get your most recent experiences, like since we are like AppSec focused, right? Give me a couple things that you've been working on, interesting wise, in the AppSec space, right? I know Go is specific to Dave, right? Like if there's anything that you've come across in the last little while that you could point somebody towards.
I'm not sure if there's anything that is worthy of pointing people towards it. One of the things I've been working on that's not ready yet, if you know Micah Hoffman, web breacher, he just started an OSINT class for SANS.
Okay.
So he's got a week-long OSINT class, and he has a bunch of Python scripts to do OSINT stuff. So I've been helping him turn one of them into a website where you just go and you can put in a keyword that would be a username. So like just David Coursey, and it will search 150 sites for the presence of that string as a user.
Interesting.
So that's kind of a neat project I've been working on. And like I mentioned, I'm trying to get better with Frida. It's so out of my realm of expertise that I'm kind of slow with it still, but super interesting.
Yeah, I mean, there's some pretty powerful stuff with Frida and how it gives you access into the Dalvik engine, right? Or what do they call it on Android? The running code, actually being able to make changes on the fly.
Yeah, binary hooking and everything.
There you go. Yeah, the binary hooking stuff that we've done.
Binary instrumentation.
And it's all in JavaScript. Yay!
Yay! So it's really easy to use JavaScript.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Check out Frida if you haven't before. If you're doing Android stuff, that's awesome. What about you, Stefan? What do you have?
I mean, I'm always working on Caramel and compiler stuff and things like that. I've been looking
Wait,
more.
let me break out Google really quick. All right, go.
I'm sorry.
I have to break out Google really quick. Okay, now you can go.
But the thing that's caught my eye this week is actually a project called Taipan. I'll post it in our chat here. It is a web application security scanner written for .NET Core. But what's interesting to me is that it's actually written in F#, not in C#. So it's all written in OCaml. There's a lot of really interesting stuff. The project is actually relatively mature, so it has a really nice dashboard. It has nice plugins. The code is actually not horrible to look at, unlike most InfoSec code. It's actually well written, and it looks really approachable to dive into it. I know OCaml and F# are going to be weird for most folks, but it looks like an interesting project, and I'm tracking that pretty nicely. So.
Yeah, drop that in there. I mean, I've had a couple .NET Core apps come my way recently that I'd be interested at sending it after, right? I mean, the discussion had been whether or not we wanted to go and, use PumaScan, like the Roslyn engine, to actually look for vulnerabilities. But if there's something else that's out there, it's called Taipan, you say?
Taipan, I actually dropped it in the Hangout chat.
Oh, awesome. Okay.
So,
Ken, you want to post that on the YouTube link as well?
I did. Taipan, I did post that.
Oh, okay.
I'm actually trying to see if there's anything else I didn't post.
Yeah, that looks super interesting. So I'm gonna have to go play with that. Now I have more to do. Thanks.
Yeah.
Every time I talk to you, Stefan, and you, Coursey, like, oh, my list just got that much longer. Great.
The ever-growing list.
Yep.
I'm trying to shrink mine by ruthlessly not caring about things anymore.
Yeah.
You not caring?
Whatever. If we just mention F# or
Right.
one of your trigger words, it'll get longer.
Oh gosh.
Just put a bunch of parentheses on a line somewhere, and Stefan will stroke out.
Wait a minute. This is unbalanced. I have to fix this. Gosh.
All right. Well, if you want to keep going, Ken, feel free. I'm gonna drop off. I've got family stuff I got to take care of tonight. So,
Family.
But yeah, thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll talk to you guys soon.
Yeah, I mean, have a good one, Seth.
Yep.
Thanks, sir.
Yep. Thanks.
All right. Yeah, I've got a little bit more time. I've got time. So, what I was actually, this comes back to speaking of recent topics, something you guys said, Alex Stamos, that whole situation, that was crazy, right?
Yeah. I mean, is it really crazy though? Like when you're a mildly high-level employee at a multi-billion-dollar company, like I'm surprised that he was not summarily executed.
For what?
Yeah.
For the audacity to say anything that went against the board of directors of Facebook, right? Like they obviously have motives, and their motive as a publicly traded company is money. Right. And
yeah.
When one of their high-level employees says something that could even remotely damage their money, right? Like. So,
and let's back up for those who I just realized there some folks maybe hadn't followed this on Twitter. I'm gonna, to the best of my memory, and also the limited, social circle. It's not like he and I are running in the same social circle, so I have no idea any insight. But here's what I do know. I know that you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe he's staying till August, but had initially what's that?
Yeah.
Okay, so we know he's staying till August. When David had said that he wasn't, it was surprising he just wasn't let go. Effectively, he publicly disagreed with the CEO and COO of Facebook. And the reason I believe that he stated was that he wanted them to focus more on the voter, well, like the basic propaganda machine that ran to during the elections,
Right.
things like that are fairly serious. He wanted the company to tackle that. Now, from what I understand, some people were saying that he was relegated to a small team now, so he's not in charge of like a huge team anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he went from 150 to 3.
That's a huge difference. Well, and then the thing that I don't understand is that the disagreement was that he would be, he felt like they needed to put more work into that, but then well, I guess I do understand it. So he's saying that he is doing that work now until August with his 3-person team. So clearly it's like, I feel like it's like Big Head in Silicon Valley sitting on the roof drinking Slurpees. I mean, what are you tackling with 3? I mean, that's basically how I imagine that going down. So I don't know much. These are just the things that I think we're all kind of seen publicly. Some people, now I'm going to give you 2 different perspectives here. Some people applauded it, right? And they were very public in applauding his, standing up. Others, on the other hand, had said, I want to be very clear, this is not my opinion. I don't know enough to have, again, like when I don't have enough information, I don't have an opinion. But others had said this was a cop-out.
Yeah.
It was blame shifting. It was trying to get ahead of a story, and trying to basically say, well, I tried to do the right thing. They don't want to do it. And in reality, the blame sat with everybody, and this was a way to push away. And so again, those are the 2 sides. Some say it's an awesome move. Some people say you're just trying to get ahead of being a scapegoat, or not a scapegoat, sorry, ahead of being a part of the triad of blame or whatever.
Well,
honestly, it's probably some of both.
Right. I mean, you think that Facebook's crisis management team, or whatever their public relationship team is called, didn't have this whole angle spun for him to be able to leave at a time of like, it looks really bad. We need to, I want to leave. Okay, like that's great. We'll have this like whole board issue where you disagree publicly with the board. I mean, it's just, I don't know. I'm in the camp that it was a pretty cynical, pretty calculated move to leave at a time that was, advantageous for him. I have little to no sympathy for large corporations that use you as a product and then are so shocked, and it's so damning when and so surprising when all of this bad stuff is going down. Like, Facebook doesn't need to collect all the stuff that it does. They create shadow profiles because they can. That's how they make their money. So to act like it's so surprising and clutch your pearls when bad shit goes down, it really seems, I don't know, it seems disingenuous to me.
The tale is as old as time. They're not sorry they did it. Sorry they got caught.
I'm sure he's crying into $100 bills overnight, with all of his Facebook shares.
Well, and I guess the people that support that kind of again, like just trying to get ahead of it versus versus it being a true moral stance, pointed to the fact that the situation was it felt very similar to when he left Yahoo in, I believe, 2015. I may have that year wrong. So I don't, again, without more information, I don't know that I can form an opinion, but what I can say is that, there's no way that I agree that there's no way that everybody at the top doesn't know about this, isn't concerned about it, isn't already talking to politicians and lobbyists. And I mean, there's a whole wave of things going on, like way before we ever heard about him leaving. And so he certainly knew that this kind of stuff was on the horizon for sure. I think we can all agree to that.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I mean, that's a fair point. I don't want to make any claims that I know what goes on behind their closed doors, but big companies are pretty similar across the board, and any company really is. People talk, and stuff gets out that's not supposed to, and it's just I don't think that any one employee at his level would know all of the evil stuff that goes on behind the scenes. And so I could see how he could get into a position where he's being told that they're working on all these privacy and fake news types of things, and trying to get better about the Russian bots and all that stuff, and then it just gets worse. So I could see that happening, but
yeah,
I could
it's
also,
certainly.
I could also see it the other way as well.
Yeah, it could be, and we're speculating. That's the point, is we're speculating. But you're right. It could be the other way, where it's like, you're saying these things. I see what resources are being pulled into it. It's not enough. I see that what it really is, and it's not sitting right with me. So it really could be, And fucking Twitter is not the place to get your opinions from.
No,
safe to say, right? Like,
And
How
all
dare
that
you?
being said, burn the witch.
yeah. I mean, Twitter's definitely not the place I go for critical thinking, right? It's
I mean,
it's a good outrage machine, and
it's monkey
which,
spears, right?
ooh, speaking of all of this crazy, conspiracy theory stuff, do either of you watch Homeland at all?
No,
Okay.
I don't watch telly, as you know.
All right, you read books, right?
I read.
Right.
I read and shit.
Weirdo. No.
I do, but I haven't watched Homeland. It just never kind of made it to the top of my list. I'm more like the trashy sci-fi and comedy.
Ready Player One.
Well, on their last episode, they had this interesting. The only reason I bring it up is because on their last episode, it's pretty funny because it's a topical. Like they're trying to cover topical stuff, and it was just funny because they show this whole map of effectively an information war campaign, propaganda machine coming out of surprise, Eastern Europe, and they showed yeah. Don't mean to offend you and your books and
Present company accepted.
yeah. I mean, so it was just interesting because they show all these nodes and they use some algorithm, of course, algorithms and
They had a pew map,
pew and blockchain and all that, machine learning. So they use, of course, blockchain machine learning AI to build a list of nodes and show the different information warfare campaigns. And I just thought it was funny because it was so with this whole thing and last few months, actually, last 6 months, last half year, it's just kind of funny how it's all becoming more mainstream and more known to the public and more of a topic. And sadly, Showtime's Homeland's probably how most people are first hearing about this. So,
but I mean, Coursey, I know you have a similar experience and similar background in these sorts of threat hunting and these sorts of incident response and campaigns and APTs and all this sort of stuff. And it's really funny when you see these vendors or shows or these sorts of handling of them, how there's all these machine learning and all these different crazy algorithms. And usually it's just some person going through logs and holy crap, it's there. And that's it. And they'll have IOCs or they'll have hunt activities or they'll have whatever, and they will operationalize it afterwards. But the initial hunting itself or the initial IR activities are pretty much manual. If you don't have a baseline, what are you actually going to use to train your neural network, right?
yeah.
I mean, it doesn't come out of ex nihilo. It comes from something. So I love how Ken is just I don't know what that word means, but I'm not actually going to ask you what that means. But
I'll tell you if I know what a word means. Yeah, no,
I can't find it now. Maybe I can go back through. But I saw a comic on Twitter that was all the VC terminology translated, and it was machine learning, large spreadsheet,
Yeah.
big data database.
Well, there's one from a while ago that's like 231 nested if blocks is totally a machine learning algorithm. Like, like it's just you can't determine how it goes through there, man. Like no one can figure that out. It's just a bunch of really nested if blocks.
Yeah.
It's dumb.
Well, that's basically how it. Sorry, I'm trying to keep up with. Now Seth's left, so now I'm doing the whole live chat and email and everything, checking everything to make sure that we're answering any questions. We haven't really had too many questions tonight. Yeah, I don't think we've had too many questions. Anything you guys want to chat about before we hop offline? I think we've gone over. I don't really care, but I'm sure you guys have stuff to do. So, well, I know Stefan, you said you were, before we started, you said you were up early. So
yeah, I got up at 0300. I've been working all day. So
yeah, man,
what's a 15-hour day amongst friends?
Well, I mean, you've always had that kind of weird offset schedule where you get up super early in the morning, but I see the point behind it because it's really useful to get stuff done before everybody's awake. So.
Yep. Before Coursey's asking me to do stuff and
before he's asking for some cuddle comforts. Inappropriate, David.
Yep. That's my middle name.
That's why we use Wicker with like disappearing messages to send all of our cuddle comfort requests to each other.
I need you to put in a CCR.
Good Lord.
Oh, all right.
on that note.
Yeah, on that note, well,
as it goes downhill.
Well, I mean, so yeah, I mean, I appreciate you guys coming on. Of course, love to have you all on again. Of course, because you guys are a couple regulars. We'd like to keep regulars.
We're the fiber of the app of the podcast.
You're you weave the tapestry.
That wasn't the type of fiber I meant. But
fair enough. What else can I say? So, yeah, we'll definitely do this again, of course. We still haven't gotten to a whole lot of programming language theory. I know we've talked about wanting to delve into that. It's always like interesting. It's very easy to eat up an hour. So we've had some pretty interesting conversations. Nobody has any other questions? Anything you guys want to point out before we go? Anything you've got going on? Anything you want to promote? Anything you want to talk about?
No, I think I do think though, if you want to do like a PLT or a programming language, like podcast once, Coursey and I can probably work out something ahead of time and like put together some cool stuff that we're seeing in Go or in Scala or in F#, any of those sorts of things. I mean, obviously I can show the PLT work I do on the side. I mean, there's a ton of directions we can take that one.
And I can back him up with interpretive dance because I don't do PLT.
Well, I mean, I know you have enough. You both have downplay it all you want. You both have enough experience to have some pretty decent opinions on various languages. So the input's super valuable.
I got it. Yeah, I mean, I don't have anything to promote. When I finish that website with WebBreacher, I'll show that to you so you can get that out.
Awesome. I think Micah used to live in this area, being Northern Virginia, where I live.
He is.
Yeah. Oh, he still lives there.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'd seen him at Nova hacker meetups. Yeah, the Nova AHA or Nova Ha or however it's said. Yeah, meetups. So. Anyways, cool guys.
Having us.
Always a pleasure.
Oh, and again, I did want to point out for those listeners that next week will be Justin Collins, and we've got a lineup here. I'm trying to pull it up right now. I've got at Iteration One's going to be joining us. Evan Cody's going to be back on. And we have Charles from, give me one sec here. Charles from Stitch Fix. So, yeah. So I'm not saying his last name because I don't want to butcher it. But yeah, he's going to be joining us. So we've got a decent lineup coming, people from throughout the industry that are now starting to actually say yes to come on with the, us loons. So cool. Well, thanks everyone. Thank you, Stefan. Thank you, David. I'm going to shut the podcast down, but David and Stefan, don't hop off just yet. All right, everybody. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.